Hello, 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 and welcome to Unique Leaders Podcast with Hope and Possibilities. And today I am welcoming my dear friend, Karla Runner. And Karla is not only a gem, but our story together is gem-like, extraordinarily gem-like. So what I'd like to share before I dig into Miss Karla is how we met. As you all know, I have been manufacturing clinical result-oriented skincare since 1992. And in 2004, shortly after 9/11, and the world was a little fragile, I was doing a trade show for a distributor that carried the products in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And it was Sundays at trade shows are very, very busy, very crazy busy. And then Mondays are quieter. And on Sunday, I met Karla and her colleague, but there were a lot of people there and chatting with many, many people. But of course, I remembered speaking with Karla. So the day ended, and the next day began. Now, with trade shows, when you're selling to distributors, you basically never really see that person again, unless the next year they come to another show or a class or a workshop and that type of thing. But we meet so many people, and it is not our place to take their information. It's the information for the distributor. So Karla left, and she did purchase some products. And then the next day, she and her colleague came back and said, "I'm here to pray for you." It's like, wow. I'd have to get the feeling, or when I say feeling, I mean the feeling of what a hair show is like. And it truly is not normally where one would pray with one. So I came from the back of the booth and came into the aisle of the show. And sure, I'm 5'6" and change. And Karla, how tall are you? You know, a little shorter. So, I'm like leaning over her. And so this is how Karla and I met. But many years later, and I really did not continue to communicate. And then many years later, I'm talking about 2007, my husband Paul and I went up to Dallas and to a show at the Javits Center, at the Trade Center in Dallas, because we were opening the boutique where I'm sitting right now at the Novitas Spa Medical Rejuvenation Clinic, and wanted to find some things, some cool items to sell in the boutique, because predominantly would be the products. And so I met this young man who was repping a line of things that I thought were really great. And he said, "Oh, my girlfriend and I, she lives in San Antonio, she will come with me to visit you." I said, "Oh, super." Well, this turns out to be Karla's, one of her besties' son. Now, meanwhile, I don't know this, zero. And so then a day or so later, I get this call from Karla sharing that this young man's girlfriend, who was physically in this building too, and Karla spoke because Karla is a leader in the beauty industry in her niche. And so she's going to share about that. But then God connected us again through those happen chances. Now, if you don't think that, God is in control, I don't understand how you cannot see that. Because really there was no, "Oh, let me take your name, let me take your email, no, none of that. I don't even know if there were emails back in the day. But the point is that this was a divine appointment. So for such a time as this. And so with that intro to our connection, and then our reconnecting and building our relationship, I'd like to introduce you to Karla, Karla Runner. Hello, Miss Karla.
Hey, Meg. Thanks for having me. I'll take that reconnection even a step further. Megan is in the Austin, Texas area. I'm in Little Rock. And so happens that the weekend following our reconnecting phone call, I was going to be in Austin, Texas. And so our reconnection was almost instantaneous, and totally blew both of us away. I thought she probably will not remember my name when I got her cell phone number and called her. I said, but she's going to remember the fact that I prayed for her in the aisle at a hair show. Just like she said, that is not
if not, we can't impress upon you guys enough. I mean, it's like, not only music, but smoke and blowing, and it's just crazy.
I think so there were people gyrating on a stage real close at hand to where we were praying.
Right there. Because I was leaning over you and looking at that. So yes, exactly. But then, like you said, Karla, here she was coming, not 2 months later, not 2 weeks later, not thinking about coming. She had her ticket to a conference. She was coming, and it was the next week. So because I could have not connected with that gentleman, because I made a right and my husband made a left, and I said, Paul, come on over here, because I saw something that caught my eye from his booth. Those moments of connect the dots are those supernatural, special things that God just impresses us with. So with that said, Missy, you also, another connection that she and I have, we are both East Coast girls.
Yes.
And so we both then, on our own, moved to the West-ish, Texas and Arkansas. And but share with our guests, to get into the unique leaders, about not necessarily why you moved to Arkansas, but basically how did you and why did you get into the professional spa beauty industry?
Well, makeup was the love of my life. Probably from the time I was 3 or 4 years old, I had loved makeup. Not that I was wearing it, granted, at 3 or 4 years old, but there was just something magical about it to me. And the fact that my mother kept hers in this cute little, looked like a little miniature suitcase. It actually was a little train case, a cosmetic case that coordinated with her luggage set. But anything small like that, I assumed was mine, or should have been, because it was pint sized. So, I was 3 or 4 years old, so it should have been mine. So I would, rifle through it. I loved even the smell of makeup. Back then, Avon used to give samples. I don't know if they still do, but Avon used to have these tiny little lipstick samples. You remember those? They look like little mini tubes of lipstick. Surely those were meant for me too, because they were so little. And so I would lock the bathroom door, and I would take that train case down, and I would rifle through that stuff and play with it and smell everything and try putting that lipstick on, and then come out of the bathroom, trying to assume that innocence, that, oh no, I haven't been in your makeup bag, Mom. And then couple that with the fact that my grandmother had this wonderful vanity in her bedroom that was just like this magical place where all her cosmetics were in her little bottles of nail polish and everything. And she would come and sit at her vanity and allow me to put makeup on her. So she nurtured this budding gift on the inside of me. My grandmother did. My mother spanked me for it, but my grandmother nurtured it. And when my grandmother went to heaven, and they were, kind of divvying up her belongings, the thing that I wanted from her house was that vanity. So that vanity sits in this room with me. As a matter of fact, I put my makeup on at it every single day, but it went in my first facial room, as a part of what I used. And it's just, it's like that that legacy piece, you know. But it started with makeup. It started with makeup. And when
so it started with makeup.
I learned to love the skin, because obviously the skin is where the makeup is applied. So if your skin is not good, you know, your makeup is only going to look but so good. So I learned to love skincare, and everything that went along with it. So that's how I ended up in the beauty industry. My mother actually, you know, we lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And my mother, when my parents divorced, went through the coldest winter in history on the East Coast. And my uncle, who lived in San Diego, had a very easy time convincing her that it was time for her to pack us up and move us to California. And so we ended up in California, and that's where I went to beauty school. Furthered my makeup education, got all my certificates and accolades and all of that. And it's, you know, it spun out from there.
So you moved to California. How old were you then?
I was sort of right out of high school. You know, back east, well, at least in Pennsylvania at the time, my dream job was going to be to work at a makeup counter. You know, I wanted nothing more in life than to work at a makeup counter. And so I went to the nearest department store, which was Kaufman's at the time. And I was told that you had to be a licensed cosmetologist in order to work at the makeup counters. So I thought
that was a blessing, actually.
Yep. I thought, I'm going to go to school and become a cosmetologist. Well, I didn't realize that meant that, you know, the focus was going to be hair. I had absolutely no interest whatsoever in doing hair. And about 2 weeks into this thing of doing pin curls and learning finger waves and sculptured nails and all of this stuff that I had zero desire. And I think every day I asked, when are we going to get to the part about makeup? When are we going to get to the part about makeup? And they kept saying, we'll get to that at 1,200 hours, or, you know, whatever it was. You know, we're only going to do it for 40 hours. And I thought, why am I here? And someone introduced me to the idea of freelance makeup artistry. And I thought, so much for working at the department store counter. I'm going to be a freelance makeup artist. I had business cards.
In California.
At the time, I was still in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
I was still in Pittsburgh.
Right. I see.
And so my sister was 6 years my senior, and she had a lot of friends who were fashion forward, and they had these fashion shows, and they had a group called the Pittsburgh Black Models. And I was a shoo-in because they didn't have any money. You know, I could do makeup decently at least. And I was somebody's little sister, and they thought I was the cat's meow. And, you know, I did everybody's makeup for free. So that was my introduction. And then as the word got around that I was good at what I did, you know, I got more and more gigs. I still didn't make any money, but I was having fun, and they were getting free makeup. So that was my start to stardom, so to speak. And then finally someone paid me. Someone actually paid me to do a fashion show. I got a check for $100. I thought I was, you know, big time. And I was now a professional because I had been paid. So that was the start of all of that. But I was a beauty school dropout to begin with, because I had zero interest in doing hair. Zero.
Yeah. And so then when you moved to Arkansas is when you got your aesthetic license?
Oh, no, I got my aesthetic license in California.
Oh, so you did? Okay.
Yes. Okay. I got my aesthetic. Once I moved to California, I went to beauty school there. I see. Wonderful instructors. I was very, very blessed to get a real aesthetics education. I can't say that that's always the case in all of, you know, the schools nowadays. Right. You know, they barely learn how to pass state board, but at that time, I was blessed to have a woman from Malaysia who taught our aesthetics program. And she was very, very thorough. And she also taught us all kinds of really neat things that they did in Malaysia with skin and with massage techniques and, you know, aromatherapy and natural products. And I really got a wonderful education.
And what year would that have been, Karla?
I'm sorry?
What year would that have been?
Oh, my. Oh, I think I came out of beauty school maybe 79, 80, something like that. Because I graduated from high school in 1976. And so this was just a few years later when I moved to San Diego. So yeah, probably 29.
Like you say, that education is one of the challenges in our industry. I mean, it has become, but back in the day when you went to school, that's why I asked that question, it was a whole different dynamic, and you really got that training in your wheelhouse, in where you were interested in building that career. Yes. So how did you go from aesthetics to then, and you know, the love of your life being makeup and makeup artistry, to eyelash extensions? How did that evolve? Because all of our industry is about evolving. Beauty is about evolving. So how did that come to be?
Well, I always did some sort of lashes with makeup artistry. Of course, it was strip lashes, you know, when I first started. And then the individual lashes, which is what we call them, they call them tabs, they call them flares, they call them all kinds of things now. But those I became very proficient at, and I had kind of developed a technique for trimming them and feathering them a little more so that they looked more natural. And my application was not just all one length all the way across. You know, I was very into styling them to suit the client's eye shape. Yeah, so I was a little ahead of my time where that was concerned. And honestly, hair extensions had become a big thing. And so I thought, well, you know, rather than just call these individual lashes, I think I'm going to call these eyelash extensions just because it sounded cute. You know, not knowing that there was actually such an animal as eyelash extensions, because being here now at this juncture, I'm here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, granted, when I moved to Little Rock, I thought I'm going to have to find something to do because I saw no evidence of aesthetics here. I saw no evidence of anybody being an esthetician or offering facials or anything of that kind. So I went to work in a bank. I met a young lady who began doing my hair, and I told her that I was a makeup artist and that I was an esthetician in California. And she said, "Oh, you need to get your license here in Arkansas." And I said, "They have estheticians in Arkansas?" You know?
They have skin.
Yeah. So unbeknownst to me, they really did have an aesthetics license here. So I had to do the reciprocal, you know, licensing thing and get my, I had to take the practical exam as well as the written. And thankfully my California license had not expired. It was very close. But so I would say to anyone, you know, who is licensed in any state, don't ever let your license lapse. Even if you're not working actively in the field, you just never know what cards life is going to deal you. And you'll always have a skill set that you can fall back on and a license that you put money into achieving. So don't ever let that thing go. You know, so thankfully that was, you know, that was the case. And so I was able to take the test. I became licensed in the state of Arkansas. And I took my test on a Friday and passed. So I knew that I was, you know, going to be licensed here in Arkansas. And that very Sunday following, there was an ad in the newspaper. Someone was actually looking for an esthetician. And so I applied for the job and was hired right away. So I went right back into working in my field.
Bye to the bank. Back to,
yeah,
yes.
bye banking. Woo, thank goodness. And back to the thing that I loved, and and then of course evolved over time. I went from being an employee to being an independent contractor, which I was for many years, to being a spa owner, and and the thing evolving. But lashes became such a big thing. I'm thinking now, I think I went and trained in Texas, in Houston, trained in Houston, which with one of the larger eyelash extension companies. At the time, there were the three major, eyelash extension companies here in the States. Now there's zillions, new one every day. But I trained with one of those three top companies, and started actually offering eyelash extensions in 2005. By 2006, I decided everybody shouldn't have to go to Texas to get trained to do lashes. Someone in this region, should be able to do that. And so I decided I would sit on a Monday when I was closed and pen a letter and just throw my hat in the ring with some of these eyelash extension companies. And that's what I did. And I heard back from a couple, some I never heard back from. The one that I trained under wanted me to pay them to train me, to be a trainer for them. And then they wanted to pay me peanuts, so that wasn't a good fit. But a company out of Parker, Colorado contacted me. The owner herself called me, very excited, because she was looking to expand into the Mid-South region. And she was very excited to talk with me. We struck up an instant friendship. She offered a very great compensation, program. And all I really had to do was get myself to Parker, Colorado to be trained, and then embark upon this new portion of a career, which I did. And it's been very, very lucrative.
What year was that? What year was that?
I trained with her in 2006.
Because if you think about, again, back to Evolve and Miss Karla's story, it was that passion, that heart that started and propelled her, and she continued on learning and growing. And so that was 2006, and people who are listening now may not have ever even heard of eyelash extensions. But again, this was something that, again, germinated from an interest that you started, with the strips, the tapping, the flares, and then creating your own and going from there. But now you're working with this company, and that's about the time we met. And you were now building and that's actually why we met, because this young lady, the rep, and you were talking about what spas that she had visited to sell her wares in, her beautiful, accessories for a spa. And that's when you asked, and she shared, she didn't have to share. Oh, I met this lady. Tell that story, how she said that.
Well, it was funny because the young man that you met, David, his mother, who was a fixture at my spa, she's just always been one of my biggest promoters. And she was headed to San Antonio to spend some time with her son and the girlfriend and some grandchildren and such. And she said, I need you to put me some packets together, because I'm going to promote your lash classes in Texas. There's no reason why you can't travel to Texas, because that's what I was doing. And this was for the other company. At the time, I was, a trainer, and I was looking to build this region for them, and teaching eyelash extensions, because it was the newest thing.
The new frontier.
Pioneer that I am, I come from pioneering stock. And so she took this packet And she actually approached several spas while she was in Texas, in San Antonio, and happened to have this conversation with the young lady who said, "Oh, I know somebody she needs to talk to." And so I was on the phone with her. She was calling me from Texas, and she said, "Here, I'm going to put," was her name Kim?
It was.
Mhm.
Kim
I'm
and
going to
David.
put Kim, I'm going to put Kim on the phone because she knows somebody that you need to talk to. And so she puts Kim on the phone, and she said, "I just met this wonderful lady. She's in the Austin area, and I think that she would maybe be interested in your classes." And I said, "Really? What is her name?" She said, um, "It's let me find her card." And so she ruffled around for a minute, and she said, "The name of her place is Novita Spa." And I said, "Wait a minute. Is her name Megan?" And she said, "Yes, Megan Martino. How did you know that?" I was like, "Oh my God." I said, "I used to use her products." I said, "I met her at a hair show a bunch of years ago." I said, "She'll never forget me. She'll never forget me." She said, "Well, do you want her phone? I have her cell phone number. Let me have her cell phone number." And I called and left a voicemail. And I remember when you called me back, you were literally screaming in the phone, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's you."
Really, really, really. So you're now working with this company and
Mhm,
traveling and educating.
mhm,
And so that basically put your aesthetics, skincare, let's just say that, into the
mhm.
back seat. And so that
Absolutely.
back seat, and you propelled yourself. And the next thing you know, you're being written up in the Little Rock Gazette or whatever it's called as the
Mhm.
eyelash queen. So share a little bit about that.
Well, here's what happened. There's a young lady who has worked for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette um, for a very long time. We're now good friends. At the time, I didn't know her. I just knew of her because she was a feature writer, had been the entire time that I lived here in Arkansas. And so I thought, what better way to get this into the news than to offer to do some lashes for her? And so I sent her an email, offered, to do the lashes for her. She did come out and visit my place. At that time, I was a booth renter um, down the road a bit from what ended up being my spa. But this was a few years earlier. And I think I actually introduced her to facials first. But then when I started doing the eyelash extensions, I offered to do the lashes on her. So by that time I had a little rapport with her. And she she said, "Well, let me run this by my editor and let's see if we can't, get this in the dressing room column." Because she wrote a feature in the high profile section, and then she did a smaller column in the style section called the dressing room, where they introduced all kinds of, fashion forward stuff. And so that's what I assumed we would do. And her editor was not interested. He didn't know anything about eyelash extensions, never heard of it, thought it was a flash in the pan, you know, not interested. So she was like, maybe we can get him to come around sometime, in the future. Just hang on to that thought. Well, out of the blue, in 2007, I get this phone call, urgent phone call from Helene saying, "My editor now is aware of eyelash extensions and the fact that this is a growing trend, and somebody must have really put a bee in his bonnet because he wants me to get with you ASAP, bring a photographer, and write a story." And so I was like, okay. So this was maybe on a Monday. I had just done the Arkansas Bride, the big bridal trade show on that Sunday, and had run into a lady that I knew from past experience with Mary Kay. She was a Mary Kay director. And so she had just gotten finished saying how much she would love to try the eyelash extensions, but she wasn't sure she wanted to make the investment. And so she's the perfect person for me to call to be my model, to come for that interview. And so I called her because they wanted to come at like 8 o'clock in the morning. But they stayed the entire hour and a half that I did the set of lashes, her interviewing me and writing, and the photographer taking pictures. He must have taken a zillion pictures, but he took some really cool ones that ended up being in the newspaper. And this went beyond somehow being in the little dressing room column to being front page of the style section, full color, the whole front of the style section and the whole back of the style section, with a ticker across the front page of the newspaper that day, sending you to the style section to find out about, you know, what these eyelash extensions were all about. And she actually, at this point, there was one other girl. I was in North Little Rock, which is a separate city from Little Rock. We're across the river from one another. I was in North Little Rock with my spa, and this other young lady was now doing lashes in Little Rock. And she was actually in the article too, but nobody knew it. She was in there by name, the name of the salon, everything, but all the pictures pointed back to me. And so when I tell you that overnight, the totally changed the complexion of my business. I went from being known for skincare and facials to being known for eyelash extensions. And it's been that way ever since.
Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Napoleon Hill, but you know, he wrote the book
Think and Grow Rich.
And several years ago, I went to a conference and met Sharon Lecter, who rewrote, annotated, I guess you'd say, Think and Grow Rich for Women. And so that was in 2017. And so I have been studying, you know, and not only her, that book, but others that she has written with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And there is a book, Karla, that she wrote, I think before that time or a little after, but regardless, meaning in these 2000s, called 3 Feet from Gold. And it is, so think about that title, 3 Feet from Gold. And in it, she has what she calls, and she co-wrote this with Greg Reed. But in the book, there is what she calls the success formula. Okay. And it is passion plus your talent times association times action plus faith equals success.
I would agree.
Okay. Now there's many people that are on this, and I'm sure many of your people too, that are, and by the way, Gigi said hello. Lovely Gigi. Ladies. But you have gone from 3 years old with your mama's train case and your grandma's beautiful bedroom with, you know, the dressing table to your story. I don't want to fill in the blanks, but if you think about this, I'm going to repeat: passion plus your talent. Passion plus talent times association times action plus faith equals success.
Absolutely.
Now, I just want to share, and there's a lot of men on this too, but this is not just a girl story here, guys. This is a story of what, so I'm going to ask you, and these are the 2 questions I ask people. What would you say to crystallize what you just shared, what your passion and talent is? I know you've already said it really, but crystallize it.
Okay. I think absolutely my passion is making women feel good about themselves and how they present themselves to the world they live in. And I think that my talent came straight from my creator. And along with that passion, he gave me the innate abilities to make that happen. You know, he gave me an eye for form and color and balance and beauty, beyond, the norm, I'll say, because I can see the beauty in everyone. And
it's like your superpower.
Yeah, exactly. And then gave me the talent to be able to actualize it, and to show them how to recreate that, how to maximize their external beauty. At the same time, gave me the ability to encourage them to project it from within.
Now, you shared in this thread of story of your life how different people along the way, your instructor in school, obviously your mother and your grandmother, the instructor in school, to Helene on some level. I mean, a big level, don't misunderstand, but you didn't know her. But those were associations.
Yes.
And let's ponder that, because what I'm really trying to say in this podcast and share with this podcast is I've been mentoring, as you have, for many years. And what I hear people say, oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm 26, like I'm washed up. Oh, this, and oh, I'm that. But holy moly, guacamole, we have evolved, because it starts with your passion plus your talent.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think when you're true to that,
exactly.
you used my word, superpower. That's your superpower.
Yes. Yes. Now, Karla has recently been working on a book, and it will be out soon. And I'd like you to share the title. And because what you shared with me about the book is really essentially what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it really is. The title of the book is Effortless Success. And the reason that it's effortless is that it's what you're wired for. When you don't try to force something, try to make something happen, or emulate the gifting that you see in someone else that you admire, but you work from within, and you utilize the natural gifts and talents that you've been given, I believe that there's automatically a passion attached to it. And that's why you become good at it. Because you love it, because you're wired to love it. I believe that our Creator has made us that way. So the thing that you're good at, you love, you become passionate about, you want to do it, you want to pour energy into, making it better, honing your craft, so to speak, regardless of what it is. And when you're true to that, there's not a lot of, you may work at it. I'm not saying that I don't work, but I'm saying it doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun. And
they say if you're doing what you love, you'll never work another day in your life.
What I would do for no money. I'm just blessed to be able to make my living doing it. And it becomes effortless. When you work out of what is innately in you to do, it becomes effortless. And your success is imminent. Your success is imminent.
So with that, the other piece is 3 feet from gold. The story, just quickly, is that this gentleman was a miner, I think in the gold rush days, I'm pretty sure that's so, came from the east to the west and bought a vein or whatever it's called and was working it, and just working it, and said, I'm never going to find it. And he sold it to someone who was watching what he was doing for peanuts. And he went back, and that guy was 3 feet from gold, literally.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Now, this man who sold the vein actually realized, it was learned that had happened, and he didn't become discouraged. He had started something, and it ended up being an insurance business, and he said, I will never do that again. 3 feet from gold. But back to you and your life, and I know many of the pivots. Were there times in this story that you were so close to stopping?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Got derailed, a couple of times, like when I moved to Arkansas and thought there were no estheticians here. I could have stayed in banking. I've been blessed to be one of those kind of people that, you can throw me in a pit and somehow next time you come past it, it's fully decorated and, it doesn't look like a pit anymore. I just have that ability to adapt. I have that adaptability in me. I think it's perhaps somewhat genetic and somewhat in my makeup of my mother's line, my grandmother, my mother,
The glamour girls, the glamour.
Yes. And great homemakers, and, we're able to make something out of nothing. And so I've just always had that ability to excel in whatever place I found myself. And so in the banking business, I started off as a teller trainee. And when I left banking, I was an assistant vice president and was in charge of teaching security to the entire banking staff and overseeing, when external auditors came in, and I was, in charge of all these other little functions. But I worked my way through the banking system and I enjoyed it because it was people related. I got to work with people, and I love people and people loved me. And so I was successful in it, but it stressed me out because it was not my purpose. It was not my gift mix necessarily. It had absolutely nothing to do with beauty and aesthetics and, all of what I was really made for, right? Counting old dirty money and, all of that. It was the people that kept me going. But I developed a nervous tick. I had an eye that would just wink and blink, and, it was a wreck, because you had to, unlike makeup. If I do something that you don't like with makeup, I can fix that with a Q-tip or a cotton ball and a little bit of makeup remover. It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. It's not one little slip of the finger and somebody's dead. It's, oh, oops, I don't like it. Your wings or your eyeliner don't match. Yeah, we can fix that. With banking, you have to be 100% accurate every single day. You have to balance to the penny every single day, all day, every day, and then when they put you in charge of the other people, the control factor changes, because now we're not just talking about my particular till or drawer or whatever you call it, balancing to the penny. I'm responsible that everyone else's balances and that they don't do anything else wrong. It was horrible.
So the essence is,
I was good at it,
stay with your passion, purpose, this kind of passion and purpose meld together with your talents, and then with association, action, and faith, as we've spoken about. Now let's talk.
I think a lot of people get thrown off with that because they find something that they do. They're making money doing it. It's not their passion, but they're making money doing it. So they become distracted away from what's truly their passion and their purpose, and they end up unfulfilled.
That's right. Yeah. And so this is not business related, but it's heart related. And so I want to take a little left turn here. And as we wind down, and speak about the love of your life. Because what I really want to have people understand with most of my guests is that we all, and everyone listening has very similar stories, that we get derailed, like you said. And we really take our eye off what our hearts are and what our passion, purpose, talent, associations, and faith are. But not that long, in 2015, you got married.
Yeah.
To
the love of my life. And
you met this gentleman when you were how old?
Like 11 or 12, something like that.
Right.
So I've known this guy for a lot of years. We were not in the same city after he went away to college. Just lost touch with each other. And then some 30 years later or so, we're reconnected, and here we are. So,
and he's in Little Rock, Arkansas too. So he moved for the love of his life. And so when I hear people say, and that's why the title of my book, Hope and Possibilities, Just Over the Horizon. It's never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams. And you are a true hope and possibilities girl with everything you've accomplished, everything you have done, are doing with your husband, James, as well as now your book, and everything that with your ministry work, with the, that is only going to continue to grow. Share a little bit about that, tie that together. And I know many of these folks would like to know about that. How you're tying all of this career from, mom's train case to the love of your life to now the love of your life.
Right. I think that, it all ties together. It's all really the same thing, the career and the ministry, because I think the career has always been ministry. It just has evolved. It has evolved. And I now am able to do something that God developed in me, which is sort of that innate mothering, gift that I think is wired into all women, whether we have natural children, physically have natural children or not. Megan, you mother those people who work with you, not saying not like mother hen, but your mothering is mentoring.
It is mentoring.
It's mentoring. And so I find that I do that a lot, even in the workplace with those who work alongside me. I teach those girls and train them and, give them wisdom on more than just eyelash extensions and skincare, on life, on making decisions, on making sound decisions, on following their hearts, and I've learned not to be self-serving with any of that. I have an ability to be able to really see the potential in people, and some people can't see it in themselves, and sometimes they just need somebody else that believes in them and can help them to see themselves the way that God created them. All kinds of circumstances keep that from happening. But with the ministry, it's very much that. It's very much training up, developing other women from different age brackets to really tap into the potential that's on the inside of them to be the best that they can be and be able to be leaders in an hour where I feel like God is raising up women leaders like never before. And so, right. Yeah, just passing the baton, so to speak, in the industry and in the kingdom of God, all of that.
So we're going to put in, yes, tying it all together, because one is not exclusive of the other. It's a marketplace ministry. As you said, we've been doing this in our hearts forever. So we're going to put in the comment section or the text of this, all of your information, but you do have classes. I mean, when the world opens up again, you do have classes there in Little Rock, and they may be somewhat remote now, or maybe going forward, but we'll put that information in. You'll share that with us, where people can find you to be mentored in the cosmetic beauty / eyelash extension arena. Someone just came in.
Yes, the love of my life.
Hello. Does he want to put his sweet face on the camera?
Yes.
No? Yes, no?
Yeah, he just peeked in at me. Yeah, peeked in and peeked out. Yes, we're actually working on some more online programs to be able to do some good, solid, basic training for eyelash extensions online. Also doing some wisdom coaching is what I'm calling it, and it's really a consulting business that I have felt coming for a while. Didn't have language for it, but during this divine pause that we've been in, I've had a lot of time for thinking and praying and ruminating and, rolling things over in my mind. And a lot of, when we reach this plateau in life, or this pinnacle in life where we find ourselves, we've been not just in business for a long time, but we've been alive for a long time. We've gained a lot of wisdom over the years, and there is a lot of need for that wisdom, and not just in the marketplace, but in people's lives.
And sister.
And there's a lot of people out there who are, what do they call themselves? Some kind of coaches. What do they call that?
Life coaches, business coaches.
Yeah, which I'm not saying I don't like that term for me. It suits some people, but what people truly seek me for is wisdom. And so it's a consulting business. This is separate from ministry that I am developing, that I'm going to call myself a wisdom coach, because there's a need for seasoned wisdom, because everybody who is in our age bracket is not necessarily wise. Age does not make
it's not about, that's why I said it's never too early or too late, because it really is not predicated on age. It is about what you just said. Right. It is that inner wisdom. And that's really, like you said, in this pause, this unprecedented pause, who would have ever thought we would have locked our doors? I don't even conceptually don't understand that. But God said, take this pause, pay attention, I will guide you. And hence, that's just what you said, this podcast, Unique Leaders. It's about helping people see everyone has a story, everyone has that passion, that talent, that, that everyone, and then from there, don't give up. That's 3 feet from gold, and keep going, because that's where you attain that wisdom. I couldn't agree more, Ms. Karla. Well, thank you. We are just now coming to the end of our time together, and you will see us together again. As we develop these programs, projects, and things that we will bring to you. And I am just joyful that I met you that day, and that God connected us again together. Because again, folks, it just pay attention. Pay attention. He has a plan for us all. Well, thank you, my love, for being with me today. And have a beautiful weekend, and everyone be blessed.
Bye-bye.